Captain Kim Tae-ho stared at the control panel in front of him. The numbers were all wrong. Everything was wrong. His ship, the Agukka, was supposed to be testing Earth's new faster-than-light drive in empty space. Instead, they were surrounded by hundreds of alien ships. "Captain," said Communications Officer Lee Dong-woo, his voice shaking slightly, "we're getting signals from all directions. I can't understand the language, but they sound angry." Chief Engineer Park So-jin ran her hands through her hair as she checked her instruments. The jump drive worked, but something went wrong with the navigation. "We're not where we're supposed to be. We're not even close." Security Chief Choi Min-ho moved to the weapons console. "Should I charge the defensive systems, Captain?" Kim Tae-ho looked at the alien fleet on his main screen. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They looked like they were made of crystal and light, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. Each ship was 3 times larger than the Agukka, and there were so many of them that he stopped counting after 50. "No weapons," Kim Tae-ho said firmly. "We don't want to start a fight we can't win. Lee Dong-woo, can you send a peaceful greeting? Message?" Before Lee Dong-woo could answer, the main screen changed. An alien face appeared, and Kim Tae-ho tried not to show his surprise. The alien was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow from inside. It had 4 arms and large eyes that shifted color like oil on water. When it spoke, strange patterns of light flickered across its skin. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in perfect Korean, which made everyone on the bridge jump. "You have entered the territory of the Valeth Dominion without permission. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Imperial Fleet. State your identity and purpose immediately." Kim Tae-ho stood up and faced the screen. "I am Captain Kim Tae-ho of the Earth ship Agukka. We are explorers from the planet Earth. We had a navigation error during our test flight. We mean no harm and request safe passage to return to our home." The alien's skin flashed bright red, and its 4 arms moved in what might have been surprise or anger. "Earth? We have no record of this world in our databases. How did you acquire faster-than-light technology? What empire do you serve?" "We don't serve any empire," Kim Tae-ho said. "We built our own technology. We're an independent species from a world outside your territory." The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. Admiral Kethvar's skin went through several color changes before settling on a deep purple. The other aliens visible behind him seemed to be talking quickly among themselves, their skin patterns flashing like strobe lights. "This is impossible," Admiral Kethvar finally said. "No species develops space travel independently. All intelligent life in this galaxy serves the Dominion or has been destroyed. You must be rebels or pirates using stolen technology." Park So-jin stepped forward. "Captain, may I?" When Kim Tae-ho nodded, she addressed the screen. "Admiral, I designed this ship's drive system myself. Our technology is completely original. We had no idea your Dominion existed until this moment." Admiral Kethvar's skin turned almost white. "Show us your homeworld's location." Lee Dong-woo displayed a star chart on his console and transmitted it to the alien ships. The reaction was immediate. Every alien on the main screen began flashing bright colors, and the sounds of their discussion grew louder. "Your world is in the outer void," Admiral Kethvar said, his voice filled with something that might have been fear. "Nothing lives in the outer void. It is beyond the edge of civilized space. How did your species survive in such a place?" "We didn't just survive," Choi Min-ho said with pride. "We thrived. We built cities, explored our solar system, and developed the technology to reach the stars." Admiral Kethvar's skin patterns slowed down and his large eyes focused intently on the humans. "This changes nothing. You are now in Dominion space. According to Imperial law, you must submit to the authority of Emperor Zalthus. You will surrender your ship, accept vassal status for your species, and provide tribute to the Empire." Kim Tae-ho felt his crew tense behind him. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had never heard of this Dominion or their Emperor. He thought about humanity's long history of fighting for freedom against those who would rule them. "Admiral," Kim Tae-ho said carefully, "we're peaceful explorers, not conquerors. We'd be happy to establish diplomatic relations with your empire, as equals. We have much to offer in terms of trade and knowledge. The alien's skin flashed bright red again. Equals? You speak of things you do not understand, human. The Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 of your years. Every species that has ever entered our space has knelt before the Emperor or been destroyed. There are no equals in this galaxy, only rulers and the ruled. Park So-jin whispered something to Lee Dong-woo, who nodded and began working on his console. Kim Tai-ho realized they were preparing to send a message to Earth warning them about what they had discovered. We are not asking you to kneel, Admiral Kethavar continued. We are commanding it. Submit now, and your species will be allowed to serve the Empire in a useful capacity. Refuse, and your homeworld will be reduced to ash and dust. The bridge of the Agukka fell completely silent. Kim Tai-ho could hear the hum of the ship's engines and the quiet breathing of his crew. He thought about every human who had ever fought for freedom, from ancient warriors to modern soldiers. He thought about what it meant to be human. Admiral, Kim Tai-ho said, his voice steady and clear. I've consulted with my crew and our answer is unanimous. He paused and looked directly into the alien's large, color-shifting eyes. We kneel to no one. The effect was immediate. Admiral Kethavar's skin went completely dark, and the other aliens visible on the screen began flashing bright warning colors. The sound of alarms could be heard coming from the alien ships. Impossible, Admiral Kethavar breathed. No species has ever refused. This is madness. Maybe it is, Kim Tai-ho said. But it's who we are. Humans don't surrender our freedom, no matter what the cost. Admiral Kethavar studied the humans for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with something that might have been respect, mixed with disbelief. Very well, humans of Earth. You have chosen your path. You will be escorted to Nexus Prime, our capital world, where the Emperor himself will decide your fate. Perhaps he will find some use for such interesting creatures. The transmission ended, and the main screen showed the alien fleet beginning to surround the Agukka in a complex formation. Well, said Park So-jin with a nervous laugh, I guess we're going to meet an emperor. Kim Tai-ho sat back down in his captain's chair and watched the alien ships position themselves around his vessel. Lee Dong-woo, did you get that message? Sent to Earth? Yes, Captain, they'll know what we found out here. Good, Kim Tai-ho said. Whatever happens next, at least our people will be warned. He looked at his crew, these brave humans who had refused to bow down to an empire that ruled the galaxy. Now let's go see what this emperor of theirs has to say. The Agukka, surrounded by the crystal ships of the Valith Dominion, began its journey toward the heart of an empire that had never encountered anything quite like humanity. 3 days later, the Agukka approached the most incredible sight any human had ever seen. Nexus Prime was not a planet, but a space station so large it looked like a metallic moon. Millions of lights covered its surface, and ships of every size and shape moved around it like insects around a bright lamp. Captain, Lee Dong-woo said, his voice filled with wonder, I'm detecting over 200 different communication frequencies. There must be dozens of different species living on that station. Park So-jin checked her sensors and whistled softly. The energy readings are off the charts. This thing could power our entire planet for 1,000 years. Admiral Kethavar's face appeared on the main screen again. Humans of Earth, you are now approaching the center of galactic civilization. Nexus Prime houses 5 billion beings from across the Empire. You are about to witness the glory of the Dominion. Kim Tai-ho watched the massive station grow larger as they approached. It's impressive, Admiral. Your people have built something amazing here. Not just my people, Admiral Kethavar corrected. Every species in the Empire contributed to its construction. The Corvin provided the metal. The Selvathi designed the energy systems. The Nexari grew the organic components. This is what unity under the Emperor can achieve. Choi Min-ho frowned. You mean they were forced to build it? Admiral Kethavar's skin flashed warning colors. They were honored to serve the greater good. Your species will learn the same honor if you are wise. As they docked at one of the station's many bays, Kim Tae-ho felt the artificial gravity of Nexus Prime take hold. Through the windows, he could see aliens of all shapes and sizes working on the docking platforms. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others crawled on many legs, and some floated in the air. "Stay alert," Kim Tae-ho told his crew. "Remember, we're representatives of all humanity now." They were met by a group of Valeth guards who escorted them through corridors filled with the strangest sights imaginable. Markets sold foods and goods from hundreds of worlds. Aliens conducted business in languages that sounded like music, growling, or electronic beeping. The air smelled of spices and chemicals that had no names on Earth. After an hour of walking, they reached a large chamber where a woman was waiting for them. She was human, which shocked everyone. "Captain Kim," the woman said in Korean, stepping forward with a relieved smile. "I'm Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee. I arrived 2 days ago with a diplomatic team from Earth." Kim Tae-ho shook her hand, hardly believing his eyes. "How did you get here so fast?" "We've been working on the faster-than-light communication system for years," Ambassador Yoon explained. "When we received your message, we sent our fastest ship immediately. I brought Dr. Han Jae-sung, our best xenobiologist, and Colonel Bae Yoon-ji, our military advisor." Dr. Han Jae-sung, a thin man with kind eyes, bowed slightly. "Captain, what you and your crew did was incredibly brave. The whole world is watching." Colonel Bae Yoon-ji, a stern woman with short hair, looked worried. "We have 72 hours to negotiate humanity's surrender, or the Emperor will order an attack on Earth." "Surrender?" Choi Min-ho said angrily. "After we refuse to kneel?" Ambassador Yoon nodded grimly. "I've been studying their culture and history. The Dominion has never encountered a species like us. They don't understand the concept of independence. Every civilization they've met has either surrendered immediately or been destroyed." Dr. Han Jae-sung pulled out a small device that projected holographic images. "I've learned some disturbing facts about how the Empire operates. When a species joins the Dominion, they must give up their strongest and smartest individuals as tribute. These people become part of the Emperor's personal guard and never see their homeworlds again." "That's slavery," Park So-jin said with disgust. "Worse than slavery," Colonel Bae Yoon-ji replied. "Slaves can hope for freedom someday. These tribute warriors have their minds changed so they forget their original lives. They become completely loyal to the Emperor." Ambassador Yoon led them to a secure room where they could talk privately. "I've requested an audience with Emperor Zalthus himself. He's agreed to see us tomorrow. From what I've learned, he's over 1,000 years old and has ruled the galaxy for most of that time." "What's our strategy?" Kim Tae-ho asked. "Honestly, I'm not sure we have one," Ambassador Yoon admitted. "Every diplomatic approach I've tried has been rejected. They simply cannot understand why we won't submit. In their minds, it's like we're refusing to accept that water is wet, or that stars give light." Dr. Han Jae-sung activated another hologram, showing different alien species. "I've been talking to some of the other races on the station. They're all terrified of speaking against the Empire, but I've learned some interesting things. The Corvin were the last species to resist before us. They fought for 50 years before surrendering." "What happened to them?" Lee Dong-woo asked. "They became the Empire's mining caste," Colonel Bae Yoon-ji said bitterly. "Their entire civilization was reduced to digging metals out of asteroids. Their children are born into slavery and will never know any other life." The room fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. Kim Tae-ho thought about Earth, about children playing in parks and schools, about people free to choose their own lives. "We can't let that happen to humanity," he said firmly. Ambassador Yoon nodded. "That's why I've made a decision that may seem crazy. If the Emperor gives us no other choice, I'm going to challenge their system directly." The next day, they were escorted to the throne room of Emperor Zalthus. The chamber was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared in shadows. The walls were covered with displays showing all the worlds of the Empire. At the center, on a throne made from what looked like crystallized starlight, sat the Emperor himself. Zalthus was like the other Valeth, but bigger and older. His skin was pale gold and patterns of light moved across it in complex designs. His forearms rested on the throne, and his large eyes seemed to look right through the humans. "So," the Emperor said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber, "these are the impossible humans from the outer void." He studied them for a long moment. "You are smaller than I expected." Ambassador Yoon stepped forward and bowed politely, but did not kneel. "Your Imperial Majesty, I am Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai, representing the people of Earth. We come seeking peaceful relations between our worlds." The Emperor's skin flashed with what might have been amusement. "Peaceful relations? Child, you speak of concepts that do not exist in this galaxy. There is only the Empire and those who serve it." Dr. Han Jae-sung moved closer to Ambassador Yoon. "Your Majesty, we've studied your Empire's history. You've created peace across the galaxy by uniting different species under your rule. But surely, there's room for one independent world that wishes you no harm?" "Independent?" The Emperor's skin turned bright red. "You use that word as if it has meaning. Independence is chaos. Independence is war. Before the Empire, this galaxy was filled with species fighting and destroying each other. I brought order. I brought peace." Colonel Bae Yoon-ji spoke up. "By enslaving entire civilizations?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The Emperor's eyes fixed on her, and his skin went completely dark. "Enslave? I freed them from the burden of choice, from the pain of uncertainty. Every being in my empire knows their place, knows their purpose. They are content." Ambassador Yoon took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, we understand your perspective, but humans are different. We cannot be content without freedom. We would rather die as free beings than live as slaves." The Emperor studied her for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer but no less threatening. "Very well. You claim to be different. You claim to deserve special treatment. I will give you a chance to prove this claim." He gestured with one of his forearms, and the displays on the walls changed to show an enormous arena. "The trial of strength has not been used for 3 centuries, not since the Corvin Resistance. If your champions can defeat mine, you may. Leave unharmed. If they fail, humanity will join the Empire as my new mining caste." The humans looked at each other in shock. Kim Tae-ho stepped forward. "What kind of trial?" 3 tests, the Emperor explained. "Combat, mental prowess, and technological skill. Your champions will face my eternal guard, warriors taken from the greatest fighters across the galaxy." Ambassador Yoon felt her heart racing. This was not what she had planned, but it might be humanity's only chance. "And if we refuse?" The Emperor's skin brightened to a brilliant gold. "Then I will order the immediate destruction of your homeworld. Choose quickly, humans. Trial or annihilation." Ambassador Yoon looked at her companions, at Captain Kim and his crew, at all the brave humans who had traveled so far from home. She thought about Earth, about billions of people who trusted their leaders to protect them. "We accept the trial of strength," she said clearly. The Emperor's skin flashed with patterns that might have been satisfaction or anticipation. "Excellent. The trial will begin tomorrow. Choose your champions wisely, humans of Earth. The fate of your entire species now rests in their hands." The Colosseum of Worlds was the largest structure any human had ever seen. Built into the side of Nexus Prime, it could hold millions of spectators from across the galaxy. Today, every seat was filled with aliens eager to watch the impossible. Humans faced the Emperor's champions. In the preparation chamber beneath the arena, 3 humans made their final plans. Master Sergeant Oh Kyung-soo checked his equipment one last time. He was a veteran of Earth's special forces, trained in dozens of fighting styles. His opponent would be Korax the Unbreakable, a warrior who had not lost a fight in 300 years. Dr. Lim Hai-wan meditated quietly in the corner. She was a physicist and martial artist, chosen for her quick thinking and calm mind. Her challenge would be against Shadewalker Vess, an assassin who could move through solid matter like it was air. Chief Engineer Park So-jin reviewed technical manuals on her tablet. When she had volunteered for the technological trial, everyone had been surprised. But she understood machines better than anyone, and her opponent would be Techno-Sage Kul, a being who could control technology with his thoughts alone. Remember, Colonel Bayunji told them, you're not just fighting for yourselves. You're fighting for every human who will ever be born. Don't try to match their strengths. Use your own. Ambassador Yoon placed her hand on each champion's shoulder. The entire galaxy is watching. Show them what humans are capable of. Captain Kim Tae-ho looked at his chief engineer. So-jin, are you sure about this? You're not a trained fighter. Park So-jin smiled. Captain, I've been fixing broken machines since I was 5 years old. I may not have psychic powers, but I understand how things work. That has to count for something. The arena floor was a circle of polished metal, surrounded by force fields that would contain the contests. Emperor Zalthus sat in his royal box, his golden skin glowing with anticipation. Beside him sat his 3 champions, beings who had never known defeat. Korax, the Yao, unbreakable, was a mountain of living crystal, 3 meters tall and covered in sharp edges. His body was transparent, revealing complex patterns of light that moved through his structure like lightning. He had not spoken a word since arriving, but his presence filled the arena with menace. Shadewalker Vess was harder to see clearly. The assassin seemed to flicker in and out of focus, sometimes solid, sometimes like smoke. When it moved, reality seemed to bend around it. Its face was hidden behind a mask that reflected the fears of whoever looked at it. Techno-Sage Kul appeared, almost human, except for the metal implants that covered half his head and ran down his arms like silver veins. His eyes glowed with blue light, and the air around him hummed with electronic energy. Small machines floated near him, responding to his thoughts. Citizens of the Empire, Emperor Zalthus announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive arena. Today you witness something that has not happened for centuries. A species dares to challenge the might of the Dominion. These humans claim they are different from all others. Let us see if their actions match their bold words. The first trial was single combat. Oh Kyung-soo walked to the center of the arena, looking tiny compared to his crystal opponent. Korax moved like an avalanche, each step shaking the floor. Human, Korax spoke for the first time, his voice like grinding stone. I have broken 1,000 warriors from 100 worlds. Your bones will join the dust of all who have faced me. Oh Kyung-soo bowed respectfully. I honor your strength, warrior. But I fight for something you may not understand. I fight for the freedom of my people. The battle began with Korax charging like a living landslide. Oh Kyung-soo rolled aside at the last second, and the crystal warrior's fist shattered the metal floor where the human had been standing. The crowd gasped. No one had ever dodged Korax's first attack. For 10 minutes, Oh Kyung-soo danced around his massive opponent, studying how the crystal warrior moved. He noticed that Korax's body was like a building, strong but rigid. The patterns of light inside him followed specific paths like electrical wiring. When Korax charged again, Oh Kyung-soo did something unexpected. Instead of dodging, he dropped low and struck upward at a specific point on the crystal warrior's leg. The impact sent vibrations through Korax's entire body, and for the first time in 3 centuries, the unbreakable staggered. Impossible, Korax rumbled, looking down at his leg where small cracks had appeared. Oh Kyung-soo smiled grimly. You're like a crystal glass, friend. Beautiful and strong, but hit the right frequency. He struck again, this time at a different point. The cracks spread like a spiderweb. The arena fell completely silent as Korax realized what was happening. The human had found his weakness, something that none of the Empire's greatest minds had ever discovered. Oh Kyung-soo struck a 3rd time, and Korax the Unbreakable shattered into 1,000,000 glittering pieces. The silence lasted for nearly a minute before Emperor Zalthus spoke. The first trial goes to the humans. The second trial took place in a special chamber where reality could be altered. Dr. Lim Hae-won found herself in a maze that changed every few seconds. Walls appeared and disappeared, gravity shifted direction, and the floor sometimes became the ceiling. Somewhere in this chaos, Shadewalker Vess hunted her. The assassin could move through walls and appear anywhere without warning. Most opponents went mad trying to fight an enemy they could not see or predict, but Dr. Lim Hae-won was a scientist first and a fighter second. Instead of trying to find her opponent, she studied the maze itself. She noticed that the changes followed patterns like equations made real. When she understood the mathematics behind the shifting reality, she could predict where the walls would be. Clever human, Shadewalker Vess whispered from everywhere and nowhere. But cleverness will not save you when I strike from within the walls themselves. The assassin's attack came from below, phasing up through the floor like a ghost. But Dr. Lim Hae-won was ready. She had calculated exactly when and where the attack would come. As Shadewalker Vess emerged, she struck with precise force at the exact moment when the assassin was half solid. The impact sent Shadewalker Vess flying across the chamber. The assassin tried to phase through the wall to escape, but Dr. Lim Hae-won had noticed something important. The reality-altering chamber affected everyone inside it, even beings who could normally ignore physical laws. You can phase through matter, Dr. Lim Hae-won said calmly, but you can't phase through altered space-time itself. In here, you're as solid as I am. The fight that followed was quick and decisive. Without the ability to become intangible, Shadewalker Vess was just another skilled fighter. Dr. Lim Hae-won's combination of martial arts and scientific thinking proved superior, and the assassin fell unconscious to the floor. The second trial goes to the humans, Emperor Zalthus announced, his skin now showing colors that indicated confusion and concern. The final trial was the most complex. Park So-jin and Techno-Sage Cool were presented with an ancient war machine that had been damaged in battle centuries ago. Their task was to repair it and improve its performance. The one who achieved the best results would win. Techno-Sage Cool immediately began working, his glowing eyes scanning the machine while his implants connected directly to its computer systems. The floating devices around him merged with the war machine, upgrading its weapons and armor using advanced technology. Park So-jin approached the problem differently. She ignored the computer systems entirely and focused on the machine's physical components. She crawled underneath it, getting her hands dirty as she examined gears, pistons, and power conduits. "You work like a primitive," Techno-Sage Cole said, without looking up from his mental connection to the machine. "I am upgrading this device to specifications your mind could never comprehend." "Maybe," Park So-jin replied cheerfully, "but I notice you haven't actually looked at the machine itself. You're working with the computer's idea of what the machine should be, not what it actually is." As Techno-Sage Cool made his improvements, through mental commands and floating technology, Park So-jin used simple tools and her own hands. She found problems that the computer diagnostics had missed, parts that were wearing out but still functioned well enough to avoid detection by automated systems. When time was called, both machines were tested. Techno-Sage Cool's version was impressive, covered in new weapons and armor that gleamed with advanced technology. But when it tried to move, it stumbled. The new additions were too heavy for the original frame. Park So-jin's machine looked almost unchanged, but when it was tested, it performed perfectly. It moved smoothly, its weapons fired accurately, and every system worked in harmony with every other system. "How?" Techno-Sage Cool demanded, his blue eyes blazing with confusion. "My improvements were superior in every way." Park So-jin wiped oil from her hands on a rag. "Your improvements were impressive, but you tried to make the machine something it wasn't designed to be. I just made it the best version of what it was meant to be." The arena erupted in shocked voices as Emperor Zalthus stood slowly from his throne. His skin cycled through colors that had no names, displaying emotions that the galaxy had not seen him express for centuries. "The third trial goes to the humans," he announced, his voice carrying a note that might have been respect. "The trial of strength is complete. The humans have won." 6 months after the trials at Nexus Prime, Earth was a world transformed. In government buildings around the planet, leaders worked day and night to prepare for what many believed was the inevitable return of the Dominion. The revelation that humanity was not alone in the universe had changed everything. Admiral Park Myung-ho stood in the command center of Earth's new orbital defense station, watching construction crews work on the massive weapons platforms that now surrounded his home planet. He was Sojin's uncle, a career military officer who had been chosen to lead Earth's defense forces because of his strategic mind and unshakable calm. "Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Commander Song Min-ji, "we have another report from the outer system sensors. 3 more alien ships have been detected entering our space." Admiral Park nodded grimly. "Friendly or hostile?" "Unknown, sir. They're not Dominion ships based on Captain Kim's reports. These look different, more primitive." Admiral Park had grown used to these reports. Ever since word of humanity's defiance had spread through the galaxy, Earth had become a destination for beings seeking something they had almost forgotten existed: hope. Meanwhile, far from Earth, Captain Kim Tae-ho and his crew had not returned home as ordered. The Agukka now traveled through the dangerous regions of Dominion space, making contact with rebel groups and gathering intelligence about the Empire's weaknesses. "Captain," Communications Officer Lee Dong-woo reported from his station, "we're approaching the Corvin mining world. The Resistance contact should be waiting for us." The planet below them looked like a wound in space. What had once been a beautiful world was now stripped bare, its mountains carved away to feed the Empire's endless hunger for resources. Millions of Corvin worked in the deep mines, their children born into slavery with no hope of freedom. Chief Engineer Park Sojin studied the tactical display. 20 Dominion patrol ships in the system. Are you sure about this, Captain?" Kim Tae-ho checked his instruments. "Our stealth modifications are holding. The Dominion sensors can't detect us when we're running silent." He paused, thinking about the modifications they had made to their ship using technology provided by other rebel groups. "Besides, we need to meet these Corvin. They're the only species that resisted the Empire as long as we have." Security Chief Choi Min-ho looked up from his weapons console. "Contact on short-range scanners. Small ship, Corvin design approaching." From the asteroid field. The ship that docked with them was tiny and looked like it had been built from spare parts. Its pilot was a Corvin female named Nixara, the leader of her people's resistance movement. The Corvin looked somewhat like humans, but with gray skin and large eyes adapted for seeing in the dark tunnels where they now lived. "Humans," Nixara said in accented but clear Korean, which she had learned from intercepted communications. "When we heard what you did at Nexus Prime, many of my people thought it was just another Empire lie. No one defies the Emperor and lives." Captain Kim shook her hand, noting how strong her grip was despite her small size. "We're honored to meet you, Nixara. Your people's 50-year resistance is legendary." Nixara's large eyes showed surprise. "You know our history?" "We've studied every resistance movement in the galaxy," Kim replied. "We're hoping to learn from your experiences." Park Sojin activated a holographic display showing star charts and fleet movements. "What can you tell us about Dominion military capabilities?" Nixara examined the display with the keen eye of someone who had spent decades fighting a superior enemy. "Their strength is not just in their weapons, though those are formidable. Their real power comes from their communication network." Lee Dongwoo leaned forward with interest. "Communication network? Every Dominion ship, every station, every world is connected by instantaneous psychic links," Nixara explained. "They can coordinate across the entire galaxy in real time. When they move against a target, every part of their military knows the plan immediately." Choi Min-ho frowned. "That's how they've been able to suppress so many rebellions. Perfect coordination?" "Exactly," Nixara confirmed. "But there might be a weakness. The network depends on psychic resonance, something my people can sense but not use. If you could disrupt it somehow." Lee Dongwoo's eyes widened. "Captain, remember our tests during the journey here? Our equipment kept showing strange interference patterns, but we couldn't figure out what was causing them." Kim Tae-ho nodded slowly. "You think we're naturally immune to their psychic network? It would explain how you've been able to move through Dominion space without being detected by their main sensors," Nixara said. "They may literally be unable to see you the way they see other ships." This revelation changed everything. If humans were naturally invisible to the Empire's primary detection systems, it meant Earth's fleet could strike at targets that the Dominion considered perfectly safe. Back on Earth, another discovery was taking place in the research laboratories, beneath the Himalayas. Dr. Han Jae-sung worked alongside Chief Scientist Dr. Shin Ye-rin, analyzing data recovered from Dominion technology that had been left behind after the trials. "The energy readings are incredible," Dr. Shin said, studying the holographic projection of a Dominion power core. "They're using controlled miniature black holes as battery systems." Dr. Han nodded, making notes on his tablet. "But look at this efficiency curve. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly wasteful. They have so much power available that they never bothered to optimize their systems." "What are you thinking?" Dr. Han smiled. "I'm thinking that humans have always been good at doing more with less. What if we could build ships that are smaller, faster, and more efficient than anything the Dominion has?" Dr. Shin's eyes lit up with understanding. "David versus Goliath?" "Exactly. We can't match their raw power, but we might not need to." Their work was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth's orbital command. Admiral Park's face appeared on their screen, looking grim. "Doctors, we have a situation developing in the outer system. A large alien fleet has just dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter." Dr. Han felt his heart skip. "Dominion?" "No, sir. These ships match the profiles Captain Kim sent us. They're Valeth, but the configuration suggests this is a diplomatic mission, not a military one." Within hours, Earth's leaders found themselves facing their first official alien delegation. The lead ship was smaller than the Dominion warships they had seen before, but still impressive. Its commander was General Vorthak, a Valeth military officer whose skin patterns indicated formal respect mixed with curiosity. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee, now serving as Earth's Secretary of Galactic Affairs, met with the general in a specially constructed chamber aboard Earth's primary space station. The meeting was broadcast live to every nation on the planet. "General Vorthak," Ambassador Yoon began, "welcome to our solar system. We're honored by your visit." The general's skin shifted to diplomatic blue. "Ambassador Yoon, I come bearing a message from Emperor Zelthes himself. He has reconsidered his position regarding humanity." Ambassador Yoon felt a chill. "Oh, the Emperor recognizes that your species has unique qualities. Rather than demanding your submission as mere vassals, he now offers humanity a place as honored allies of the Empire." Dr. Han, who was monitoring the conversation from Earth, quickly sent a message to Ambassador Yoon's communication device. "This is not what it seems. Be careful." "That's generous of His Imperial Majesty," Ambassador Yoon said carefully. "What would this alliance involve?" General Vorthak's skin patterns became more complex. "In exchange for certain technological innovations and military cooperation, humanity would retain control of your homeworld and local space. You would be free to govern yourselves as you see fit. And the cost? Earth would provide ships and personnel to help maintain order in troubled regions of the galaxy. Think of it as galactic peacekeeping." Ambassador Yoon recognized this for what it was, a more sophisticated form of the same demand. Submit to the Empire's will, but with prettier words and the illusion of choice. Before she could respond, alerts began sounding throughout the space station. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system. "All personnel, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown configuration." Through the chamber's viewport, Ambassador Yoon could see ships appearing as if from nowhere, but these were not Dominion vessels. They were sleek, smaller craft that moved with a speed and grace that made even the advanced Valeth ships look clumsy by comparison. "Captain Kim Tae-ho of the Free Worlds Alliance to Earth Command," came a familiar voice over the communication channels. "Sorry we're late, but we brought some friends." Behind the Aguka, dozens of ships became visible. Some were Corvin vessels, others belonged to species that Earth had never seen before. All of them flew flags and emblems that declared their independence from the Dominion. General Vorthak's skin went through a rapid series of color changes that indicated shock, anger, and fear. "This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated that Captain Kim had returned to Earth months ago. Ambassador Yoon smiled. General, I think you're about to learn that humans don't always do what's expected of them. Captain Kim's voice continued, over the open channels, broadcasting not just to Earth but to every ship in the system, including General Vortex. The revolution did not begin with massive space battles or the clash of mighty fleets. Instead, it started with something the Dominion had never faced before, an idea that spread faster than their ships could travel. Captain Kim Tae-ho sat in the command center of the Free Worlds Alliance flagship, watching as Communications Officer Lee Dong-woo worked his magic on the Empire's own communication network. Using the psychic immunity that humans seemed to possess, they had found ways to inject their own messages into the Dominion's supposedly secure channels. Captain, Lee Dong-woo reported with excitement, we're getting responses from 17 different star systems. The footage from your trial at Nexus Prime has reached over 200 worlds. Park So-jin looked up from her engineering station. The beautiful thing about information is that it wants to be free. The Empire spent so much effort building their communication network that they never considered someone might use it against them. Security Chief Choi Min-ho studied the tactical displays showing Dominion fleet movements across the galaxy. They're mobilizing everything they have. We may have started something we can't control. Kim Tae-ho nodded grimly. That's exactly what we intended. The Empire's strength comes from the belief that resistance is impossible. Once that belief breaks down, his words were proven right faster than anyone expected. Within days of the first broadcasts, rebellions erupted on dozens of worlds. The Corvin mining colonies declared independence. The Selvathi trade guilds refused to transport Dominion military supplies. Even some members of the Emperor's Eternal Guard began deserting their posts. On Nexus Prime, Emperor Zalthus watched his empire shake itself apart on displays that showed every corner of the galaxy. His advisors, beings who had served the Empire for centuries, struggled to understand what was happening. Your Imperial Majesty, Admiral Kethvar reported, his skin pattern showing distress. We have confirmation that 47 worlds are now in open revolt. Our forces are spread too thin to respond to all of them. The Emperor's golden skin flashed with rage. Then make examples of them. Choose the 10 most important rebel worlds and reduce them to ash. The others will remember their place when they see what happens to those who defy us. My Emperor, another advisor said hesitantly. Many of our own people are questioning these orders. The destruction of entire worlds. It goes against everything the Empire has claimed to stand for. Emperor Zalthus turned his forearms toward the advisor, and for a moment, everyone in the room thought he might strike the being down. Instead, he spoke in a voice colder than the space between stars. The Empire stands for order. Order requires obedience. Those who will not obey will be removed. He paused, studying the displays that showed his crumbling domain. Send the order to all fleet commanders. Any world that harbors rebels will be destroyed as an example to others. The order went out across the galaxy, and it proved to be Emperor Zalthus's greatest mistake. Instead of crushing the rebellion, the threat to destroy entire planets caused even loyal worlds to turn against the Empire. Species that had served faithfully for generations began to question whether they wanted to be part of a government that would commit genocide to maintain power. Back on Earth, back on. Admiral Park Myung-ho coordinated with rebel leaders across the galaxy from his command center. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive fleet battles, it became a conflict of supply lines, communications, and morale. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Commander Song Min-ji, we're getting confirmation from the Nexus Prime system. The plan is working. The plan had been audacious even by human standards. Rather than attack the Empire's military forces directly, the Free Worlds Alliance had targeted something more vulnerable: the Empire's infrastructure. Using their immunity to psychic detection, human ships had infiltrated deep into Dominion space and begun working with local resistance groups. The key to everything was Nexus Prime itself. The massive space station was not just the Empire's capital. It was the central hub that controlled transportation, communication, and resource distribution for the entire galaxy. If it could be disabled, the Empire would collapse from within. But Captain Kim and his allies had chosen a different approach than sabotage or destruction. Instead of attacking the station, they had simply convinced its inhabitants to stop working. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai, who had secretly remained on Nexus Prime after the trials, coordinated with resistance cells throughout the station. Dr. Han Jae-sung had provided them with communication devices that the Dominion couldn't detect, allowing them to organize without the Empire knowing what was happening. The strike began at what the humans called 0 hour. Across Nexus Prime, beings from dozens of species simply put down their tools and walked away from their jobs. Transport workers stopped moving cargo. Communication technicians shut down their stations. Even the cleaning staff refused to maintain the Imperial Palace. Within hours, the greatest space station in galactic history ground to a halt. Without the constant work of millions of beings, Nexus Prime began to fail. Power fluctuated, life support systems strained, and the carefully maintained artificial gravity began to flicker. Emperor Zalthus found himself trapped in his own palace as his empire crumbled around him. His guards could not force millions of beings to work, and violence would only damage the critical systems that kept the station functional. How? He demanded of Admiral Kethvar, who was one of the few beings still at his post. How did they organize this without us knowing? Admiral, Kethvar's skin patterns showed confusion and defeat. The humans, Your Majesty. They seem to be invisible to our detection systems. They've been moving among our people for months, spreading their message of rebellion. The Emperor looked out through the windows of his throne room at the massive station that had been the symbol of his power for centuries. Now it was darkened, its lights flickering as essential systems failed one by one. Summon the human captain, he said finally. I will face the one who has destroyed my empire. Captain Kim Tae-ho walked through the corridors of the Imperial Palace, flanked by beings from a dozen different species who had once been slaves and were now free. The throne room, which had once seemed so magnificent and terrifying, now looked empty and sad. Emperor Zalthus sat on his crystalline throne, but his golden skin had dulled to a pale yellow. His 4 arms hung limp at his sides, and his large eyes seemed to look through rather than at the human who approached. So, the Emperor said quietly, the impossible humans from the outer void have achieved the impossible once again. You have destroyed an empire that has stood for 3 millennia. Kim Tae-ho stopped a respectful distance from the throne. Your Majesty, we didn't destroy anything. We simply offered people a choice. A choice, the Emperor repeated, as if the word were foreign to him. Do you understand what you have done? This galaxy was at peace under my rule. Now there will be chaos, war, suffering. Maybe, Kim Tae-ho admitted. But there will also be freedom. People will be able to choose their own paths, make their own mistakes, build their own futures. The Emperor studied the human for a long moment. I still do not understand your species. You had safety under the Empire. You could have lived comfortable lives without the burden of choice, without the pain of uncertainty. Why would you choose the harder path? Kim Tae-ho thought about his crew, about the billions of humans on Earth, about all the species that had joined the Free Worlds Alliance, because that's what makes life worth living, Your Majesty. The struggle, the uncertainty, the chance to become something greater than what we were. And what happens to me now? The Emperor asked. Will you execute the tyrant, as is traditional, in these stories? Kim Tae-ho shook his head. That's not the human way. You'll be given a choice like everyone else. You can continue to fight and probably die in the chaos that follows, or you can help us build something better. The Emperor's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a pale blue that indicated resignation mixed with curiosity. What did you have in mind? 5 years later, Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai stood in the council chambers of the Galactic Federation, looking out at representatives from over 300 worlds. The old Dominion was gone, replaced by something that would have been unimaginable under the Empire, a voluntary alliance of independent worlds. The founding principle of the Federation was simple. We kneel to no one, but we stand with everyone. It was carved into the walls in over 100 languages, a reminder of the human motto that had changed the galaxy. Captain Kim Tae-ho, now Admiral Kim, commanded the Federation's exploration fleet. His mission was to seek out new civilizations and invite them to join as equals, not conquer them as subjects. The Agukka, upgraded and improved but still recognizable, led humanity's ships into the unknown regions of the galaxy. Chief Engineer Park So-jin had established the Galactic Technical Exchange, where species shared knowledge freely, instead of hoarding it for military advantage. The innovations that resulted from this cooperation had advanced every member civilization by centuries. Dr. Han Jae-sung ran the Federation Medical Service, using combined knowledge from hundreds of species to eliminate diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Dr. Shin Yerin led the Federation,